Have you ever found yourself asking, why? I mean, why would a perfect, all-powerful God create a universe where there's so much potential for pain and heartache? It's one of the biggest, most honest questions we could ever ask. And the answer, maybe surprisingly, is all wrapped up in the nature of love itself. Because here's the thing about real love. If you want it to be genuine, you have to accept that it will always, by its very design, come with a profound and unavoidable risk. Welcome, everyone, to the very first part of our new Everlasting Gospel Study series. We're about to dig into some of the deepest, most foundational truths you can imagine, and it all kicks off by understanding that powerful, powerful link between love and risk. All right, let's get into it. So let me start with a question that's going to frame everything we talk about today. What if evil, sin and suffering, what if they weren't some unforeseen accident? What if the solution for all of that was already woven into the fabric of reality before the first star was ever hung in space? I mean, that's a huge idea, right? And if it's true, it changes everything. To really unpack that thought, we're going to follow a very clear path. First, we have to start at the only place we can, the very nature of God. He's the foundation. From there, we'll see exactly why real love requires a real choice. Then, we'll get into the unavoidable risk that choice creates. And finally, the best part, we'll uncover the incredible, mind-blowing plan that was in place from the very beginning to deal with that risk. And then we'll look ahead to what's coming next in this amazing mystery. So, everything starts right here. Before we can even begin to talk about choice or risk or some grand plan, we have to get a handle on the character of the one who started it all. Think of it like this. To understand a computer program, you've got to understand its source code. Well, to understand our reality, we have to look at the source code of the entire universe, and that is the very nature of God. This simple verse right here from 1 John is our anchor point for this whole thing. And you have to notice how precise the language is. It doesn't just say that God is loving or that he does loving things. No, it makes a statement that's so much more radical. It says that God is love. It's not just one of his personality traits, it's the very substance of his being. This means love is the foundational reality, the source from which everything else in existence flows. And Ellen White expands on this so beautifully. She says, his very nature, even his law, is love. This isn't just a nice thought. It's the governing dynamic of the cosmos. Think about a law like gravity. It's constant, it's predictable, it's universal. Well, in that same way, love is the spiritual law of the universe. It's not a new idea. As she says, it ever has been, it ever will be. It's the eternal, unchanging bedrock of reality. So what does that actually mean for us? It means that creation itself is an overflow of who God is. When God creates, he is simply expressing his fundamental nature, which is love. So every star that burns, every planet that spins, every mountain, every single living cell, it's all a physical expression of that infinite love. The universe wasn't made out of boredom or necessity. It was an act of sharing. It was born from a desire to extend the joy and the life that is just naturally a part of a God who is love. Okay, so if we accept that the foundation of everything is that God is love, that leads us right to a critical, non-negotiable condition. See, for love to be real, for it to mean anything at all, it simply can't be forced. A forced love isn't love, right? It's a contradiction. Real love, by its very definition, has to be chosen. And that brings us to the absolute necessity of freedom. And this leads us to this really important term, a free moral agent. Let's break that down. Free means you have the genuine liberty to decide. It means the real, authentic power to say yes or to say no. The option to withhold obedience has to be just as real as the option to give it. But the word moral is just as important. It means these choices matter. They have real consequences. They shape who we are. Without that two-sided, meaningful choice, freedom is just an illusion.
This quote gives us such a crucial peek into God's character. I mean, an all-powerful being could easily program a universe full of creatures who just praise and obey him automatically forever. But what would that be? It wouldn't be a relationship. It would be puppetry, and he takes zero pleasure in that. What he's really after is voluntary service, a love, an allegiance, a friendship that is freely and willingly chosen, because that's the only kind of love that has any real value.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got forced obedience. What does that create? An automaton, a robot. There's no character growth because character is built by our choices. It's just a slavish, meaningless existence. But on the other side, you have voluntary love. That requires a free agent. It's the only place where real character can develop. And most importantly, it's the only way to have a real, meaningful relationship.
So here's the main takeaway from this section, and it's so important. God absolutely could have made a safe universe, a world with no possibility of sin. He could have made us without the power to even think a wrong thought. But, as this quote says so powerfully, we would have been nothing more than mere automatons. A yes to God only means something when no is a real, live option. True love has to be chosen.
And this, of course, leads us directly to the serious, sobering part of this whole thing. If real love requires real freedom, then that freedom comes with the consequence you just can't get away from. There is an inherent risk that is baked right into the system of a universe built on love. It's the flip side of the coin.
And there it is, in one sentence. This is the great and terrible risk of the universe. The very same capacity, that same free will that lets a created being look at their creator and say, from the heart, I love you, is the exact same capacity that lets them say, I will not serve you. You just can't have one without the other. They are two sides of the same coin called freedom. Now, this is a critical point to really get. Adam and Eve, they were created perfect, innocent, holy. But that perfection didn't mean they were robots. As the quote says, they were not pleased beyond the possibility of wrongdoing. Their freedom was real. And for that freedom to mean anything, their loyalty had to be tested. Their love had to be a conscious choice, not just a default setting. And that meant the potential to make the wrong choice had to exist. And, well, we all know how the story goes. This wasn't just some philosophical theory or a hypothetical problem. The risk that was built into a universe designed for love and freedom, it became a devastating reality. The choice for rebellion was made, and sin entered our world. But that is not where the story ends. Not even close. And this, my friends, is the most incredible part of the entire story. The risk was real. The fall was real. The heartbreak was real. But God was not caught off guard. He wasn't scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. He already had a plan in place, a breathtaking solution that was prepared long before the problem ever showed up. Just think for a second what it means to be all-knowing. It means you understand every possible outcome, every potential choice from every free being you ever create. Now combine that with being all-loving. An all-loving God would never, ever create beings with the capacity to destroy themselves without having a rescue plan already in place. He didn't create blindly. He understood the immense risk of freedom from the very beginning. This simple timeline shows one of the most profound ideas imaginable. Before time even existed as we know it, back in eternity past, a plan was made. The plan of grace, the plan of salvation, was established first. Only after that divine safety net was lovingly put into place did God speak the worlds into existence. The solution literally predates the problem. And here's the proof in black and white. The Apostle Paul, writing to Timothy, says that God's purpose and grace were given to us in Christ Jesus when? Before the world began. Just let that phrase sink in for a minute. Before the world began. This means our salvation was never plan B. It was not a frantic, panicked reaction to sin in the garden. It was the original plan A, established in the heart of God before a single atom of our universe was ever created. So the bottom line is this. The gospel is not God reacting to a crisis he didn't see coming. It is a proactive, eternal provision that shows just how deep his love is. He knew the terrible cost of creating free beings, and he had already decided that he would be the one to pay that cost himself, before he even started creating. This is the love that is holding our entire reality together. Wow, we have covered some immense territory today. We've gone from the fundamental nature of God all the way to a plan that was established in eternity past. So let's just take a moment to quickly recap the steps we followed, and then we'll look ahead to where this amazing story is going next. You can see the perfect logical flow here, can't you? How each step leads directly to the next. It all starts with the foundation. God's very nature is love. Because he is love, he desires real relationships, which meant he had to create beings with free choice. That very choice, to be real, created an inherent risk of rebellion. And finally, his infinite wisdom and love provided a plan for that risk before creation ever even began.
So, we've laid the foundation. We understand the why. We see that for love to exist, there had to be choice. With choice came risk. And for that risk, a plan wasn't just made up on the spot, it was already in place. But that just brings up the next huge question. What was that eternal plan? How did it work? How, specifically, did God the Father and his Son prepare together for the terrible cost of rebellion? And that is exactly where we're going next. Thank you so much for joining us on this first step of the journey. In part 2, we are going to dive into the specifics of that pre-creation plan. We're going to uncover the mystery of what the Bible calls the covenant of peace. I'm telling you, this story only gets more incredible from here, and I cannot wait to explore it with you. See you then.